Hey, welcome back to another Black City Coffee vlog. In this video, Q&A, we're going to answer some questions from Lyle about crash and flick, and then decaf. What's up with decaf? Okay, so I started using Artisan, and I'm wondering how to avoid the flick at the end of my roast. Could you stretch out green to yellow a bit more, or should I try a higher charge temp? Okay, Lyle, crash and flick. Let's take a look, okay? So what is crash and flick? That is crash right here. This is the crash. And the flick is the upward tick, a sort of like sudden upward tick. Okay. Now let's have some context, okay? Why do we care about crash and flick? We care because, supposedly, not just because it doesn't look cool or nice on the graph, but because in the cup you're tasting some sort of defect, okay? So we should always start there. Why would we want to modulate, modify, change, adjust our roast profile? The only reason should be because we want a better tasting cup, or we taste some sort of defect that we can fix. Now, Rao says that he can taste this sort of crash and flick. He can taste it, okay? I don't think I'm that skilled yet to be able to taste it. But I know that, I think in my experience, I don't think I'm that experienced, but what the crash and flick tastes like is a sort of maybe too roasty. So let's break down what's happening. So if we're having a crash at first crack, what's typically happening? Okay, not always, but typically. First crack, we're having a lot of like expansion of the beans, right? So we're having a flush of air, and the temperature will drop. And that's what that drop is, crash, okay? And we're also increasing airflow at this time because we want to flush all of the smoke at this point, because there's just going to be this massive expansion of like heat and all that stuff. And you can read about this. I'll link something to you where they explain it more scientifically. But that's basically what's happening, is that we're seeing a crash in the temperature because we've increased air, because we want to flush all that smoke and have no smoke present on the roast. And then the reason why we see this flick is because we have not managed or continued to manage the heat through first crack. So we have the start of first crack and the end of first crack. And in the middle, typically, of that first crack like section, we want to decrease the heat more, okay? So typically at this point, what I'm doing at the roaster, okay, you can just relate it back to what y'all are doing. At first crack, I increase air to max on mine. And then to counter this sort of, to counter too much of a crash, because sometimes my coffee on my machine, how my coffees or profiles will react is the ROR curve will crash too much for me. Okay, so I'll counter that. I'll be a little preemptive because I know my coffee that I've been roasting. It's not a brand new coffee. I'll be preemptive, and I'll push my heat back to 1 kPa, and that should be about, I don't know, like 30% or 25% fuel. Okay, so that's what I'll do. And then when I hit the middle, right, when I hit the middle of first crack, because you got that first crack start, first crack end. In the middle, I'll start to bring the heat back down. So my fuel will go back from 1, maybe it goes back down to 0.5, 0.3, 0.2. Sometimes you can even turn the gas off if you need to, right, the fuel off. But you just want to manage that heat so you don't flick back up. And that's it. And you want to start making those adjustments typically or before you hit the middle of first crack to maybe like hitting middle first crack. Okay. Now, if you're doing things after the fact, like you're like, oh crap, I'm flicking, and then you have to like adjust. Yeah, sometimes that happens. And that's why you take good notes and you do another roast and you try again, and then now you know, okay, I need to be more preemptive about this particular coffee, because not all coffees act the same, right? So right around here, Lyle, maybe right here before you're dropping, or maybe you dropped too much where it was just before coming into first crack and cranking up the air, maybe you need to counter that with a little bit more fuel. So that way you don't have to correct this so much. Okay? But, I think you know what you're doing. You don't need me to validate what you're doing, but sometimes that's nice. But I think you know what you're doing already. So just kind of be preemptive about what you feel this coffee needs. And if you're roasting this coffee for the first time, which I think, okay, I don't know, but being preemptive with this coffee will give you a better control at the roaster, okay? So we're not really, again, I want to reiterate, we're not really after a pretty curve. What we're after, the main goal is like, best cup quality and or trying to eliminate sort of like a cup defect if we're tasting that in the cup, okay? And it would be good to cup this roast so that you know for you and this particular coffee what crash and flick tastes like. Maybe it's not even a problem, okay? There's tons of roasters out there who will do this sort of roast profile, but they'll still be able to sell it, still be able to drink it. It's still usable. It's not a waste. It doesn't mean it's bad, But that's why a lot of times the roasters don't want to show you their roast curves. So, Okay. That's crash and flick, okay? There's so much more that you can dive into with crash and flick. I encourage you to go read up on it. I'll try to find some stuff. I'll link it in the description, okay? Our next question. Second question. Wife gave me some Swiss water decaf. I can't see the photo. Okay, 460 on the finish. You were going for a 16% moisture loss. Okay. You ended up with 12.5. I'm confused. All right, let's look at it. All right, nice solid medium dark roast. Okay. Funny because I've never had a 460 roast turn out to be light. Oh yeah, I said that sounds like a light roast with a 12% moisture loss. That's typically like a light roast, still retaining a lot of that, basically that material, coffee material. It shows that on my artisan profile, unless my settings on the pyrometer weren't correct, but I don't see how that could be very interesting. Okay. That is really odd. That would be confusing, Lyle. Cup it, because you're on a modified popcorn popper, it's going to be really hard for me to diagnose this problem because I'm on a gas drum roaster. I wouldn't worry so much about it. It might be just how you roast, how your machine in particular roasts decaf. Now, let's talk about some of the things that maybe could help you diagnose the problem for yourself. So Swiss water decaf is 99.9% caffeine free. So they've really eliminated a lot of, material. How should you say, matter from the coffee itself in order to make this decaffeinated. Okay, and we'll get to David's question in a second here. And yeah, it should have been a much higher moisture loss number. 16, yeah, I would have said yeah for sure, 16. See if you can replicate these results and see what happens. Oh yeah, that's super weird too. It could be, yeah, a misreading. It sounds like a misreading. I'm trying to think what else it could have been. Let me see on my phone here. Okay, you got a 5-minute green to yellow, 4-minute middle phase, and a 2-minute last phase. Now, your profile that you sent me is a solid light roast, but your finishing temp was 460. I would investigate that a little bit more, Lyle. That just seems super off. A finishing temp of 460, it should be burnt. You know what I mean? There is no coffee that I think finishes at 460 that isn't, I don't know, Italian roast and beyond, So I would just check that out. 460 is very high. It could just be some weird interference, some weird technical fluke or something like that. 460 is very high, okay? For like a standard dark roast that you'd find in specialty coffee. Maybe that's different for popcorn roasters, you know, because I know popcorn roasters, air roasters just run significantly higher temperatures because it's air, you know. So maybe in your particular case, it has to be even higher at the finishing temp, okay? So not saying that there's anything wrong with your equipment. If you feel like it's all right, you know, it's all calibrated, it's all good. Maybe just for this particular coffee, the finishing temp has to be even higher. Like what, 500 degrees or something. But yeah, because it deals with mostly hot air, right? So yeah, that'll be interesting. Follow up with me on that so we can learn together. Okay, David, your question. So what's the difference between decaf and caffeinated coffee? My brother thinks I should give it a try. So my thought was, I believe they use a chemical to extract the caffeine. Please, if you can, explain if I'm wrong, or is there a natural process to decaffeinate the bean? Yeah, okay, there's definitely processes. I'll link these all, okay? This is cool little thing, For the Love of Decaf, a glimpse into the rise of decaffeinate. This article right here, brief history. Ludwig Roselius developed the first commercial decaffeination process called Sanka. Remember Sanka? Okay, synonymous with the color orange. So you would see maybe in the diner or in a Denny's, you see an orange handle on the coffee carafe, right? That would signify decaf because of Sanka and because of this guy. I just thought that was interesting. I'll put that in there, okay? Let's talk about the different processes of decaf. So the first question was, what's the difference between decaf and caffeinated coffee? Well, you just said it. One is caffeinated and one is decaffeinated or not caffeinated. Okay. Why would you want to drink decaffeinated coffee? Well, could be sensitive to caffeine, could be pregnant, you could be a mother, you could be some sort of health reason. It could be you want coffee taste, but you don't want coffee jitters because it's maybe like 6 o'clock at night. You could be wanting to make some drinks for people who, can't take the caffeine, or maybe they're young children, but they like the coffee flavor, right? So there's a lot of uses of decaffeinated coffee besides the whole, weird cultural thing, that death before decaf sort of thing, okay? So you can just Google this. I mean, you didn't really have to ask me, but if you asked me, I'll give you my take on decaf, okay? But a rundown of the decaf processes, okay? So there are a number of ways to take out the caffeine and make a caffeinated coffee decaf. Now, what I sell on my site is a mountain water process decaf, okay? I need to fix this. Broken. Okay, decaf right here, okay? Honeypot. I called it Honeypot, all right? It's an organic mountain water process decaffeinated coffee from Honduras, okay? Now, let's figure out what are the different methods. Okay, 4 main decaffeinated methods today. All right, David, you talked about a chemical. Okay, let's make this really clear. So yes, there are solvents. Solvents were used back in the day, maybe like 70s, 80s, 90s. That's what the decaf that you would have ran into, okay? And they use something called, this is crazy, benzene trichloroethylene, TCH, dichloromethane, chloroform, methylene chloride, and ethyl acetate, okay? Remember that one. Okay, so all these, besides ethyl acetate, have been linked to cancer. So decaf got a really bad rap with that, started causing cancer in rats. You know, whenever you see benzene, that's not very good either, right? Chloroform, right? methylene chloride, things like that, MC. These are chemical solvents that they would use to take out the caffeine. All right, I'll let you read that on your own time. Crazy, yeah, so not good for you. So the industry changed and they started to do different processes that the FDA deemed safe for us to consume indefinitely, okay? So here's the ones that we use now. You're not really going to see these ever, these crazy cancer-causing ones of decaf, unless you don't see it named on the bag, okay? So we need to be educated about the bags of coffee that we buy in the grocery store or wherever you're at. If they don't say anything, if they don't mention how or explicitly label how the process of decaffeination was done, for example, Swiss water, mountain water, EA, sugarcane, or ethyl acetate, then they're probably using something like MC, which is methylene chloride. So I would stay away from that one, okay? So, I never heard of this one, indirect solvent process, the European method, or EuroPrep. I never heard of that here, I guess because it's European. So us being in America, we're not really exposed to that. So I'm not really going to cover that. I have no idea about that one. Okay, direct solvent. Now, I've sold sugarcane EA decaf, which is a byproduct of processing sugarcane, and you get this byproduct called ethyl acetate, and you can use this natural chemical solvent to take out the caffeine in coffee. Once they take that caffeine out, they actually resell this byproduct to like Red Bull and stuff like that, or Monster Energy. Okay, so that's a natural way of taking out the caffeine using a natural chemical solvent. Now, there are synthetic versions of ethyl acetate, okay? And that's the one you kind of want to stay away from. So how do we know which one that they're using? Well, I always will say what I'm using. It's right here, okay? So single origin Honduras from the Marcala, La Paz varietal, Red Catuai. You can click in here. And on any other, like anybody who sells specialty coffee, typically will care about where they're getting their green from, their green coffee from, right? I even have this thing where you can click in and you can learn about, it goes to Mill City Roasters website, and you can learn about decaf a little bit more. And Lauren will tell you in a lot cleaner, more educated way. Okay, so, and then where I get my green, and you can always ask me to, if I didn't explicitly say, all this stuff right here, mountain water process, right? Decaffeination process, mountain water, MWP. I'll show you, it's right here, okay? So I get all my green currently right now from Hasea, and they have this, see? Colombia EA, sugarcane decaf, Honduras, Marcala honey, mountain water decaf. That's the one I have. And then Swiss water decaf, Mexico organic decaf, okay? So these are the sort of words that you want to look for if you're looking for other roasters that sell decaf. They should be denoting what the process is. And this one right here, this Colombian sugarcane decaf, they do not use the synthetic version, they use the natural version. Again, this article reiterates MC coffees, or what was it called? Methylene chloride. Methylene chloride coffees are purchased for one reason: they are cheap. If you are paying less than $12 for a 12-ounce bag of beans, this is what you're getting. Coffee that has little to no caffeine but tastes like someone poured gasoline on it. Okay. All right. Now, what does decaf taste like? A lot of people have the mental, maybe like burned in their brain, kind of like bad memory, bad taste in their mouth, literally, of bad decaf. And that's just really not the case anymore, currently. Okay. So I was all about the EA process for a long time, and it's not always the same. That's why you got to keep, keep getting new samples, making sure the farm is producing consistently for the most part, and just checking quality control from coffee to coffee or from harvest to harvest. Okay. But yeah, I was all about the EA process for a long time until I tried this new one, which is the mountain water process. This guy here. And this just tastes fuller. It doesn't have that decaf taste. It just tastes like coffee. For me, now that I've had all three of these types of coffees or decafs, I can taste the difference. So to me, I always want to offer what I would actually drink. So for now, this green right here, which is what I offer, and I call it Honeypot, is the one that tastes the best. And with Swiss water, yes, it's 99.9% caffeine free, but I feel like it's just a little too thin. It doesn't have the flavors. It doesn't retain as much as the flavors as I'd like. And there are really some really great EA sugarcane decafs out there. If roasted correctly, they really provide some great acidity in the cup, which I think is really hard to find. I think in the mountain waters and the Swiss water processes. So if roasted correctly and the harvest was really good that year, the EAs can really compete, I think, for my favor in terms of best tasting decaf. I didn't like it this year, or for whatever reason, I didn't really like this one this time. And I'm really falling over towards the Honduras. Now, another thing with decafs, they degrade quite quickly after you roast them. Yeah, they just don't have as much mass matter. They've had their caffeine sort of like taken from them, so they have less structure to them, so they degrade a lot quicker, which is also why they don't taste as like fuller without their caffeine. And I'm sure that the process of decaffeination, there's something there that it's also taking from it, not just caffeine, but flavor as well, body, things like that. Oils present in the coffee, right? Things like that. So, yeah, that is the difference. I'm sure if you just read this on your own, you'll get a better, more succinct understanding of it. I never heard of this one, carbon dioxide process. But I think this is good, for those that are really trying to watch how much caffeine that they ingest. Like me, 2 cups max. If it's a longer day, if I need more pep in my step, and I've got to do that before maybe like 3 p.m. Yeah, just a little bit more caffeine sensitive, despite having drank so much coffee already. So yeah, it just depends from person to person if you're more caffeine sensitive or not, or whatever your personal reason is. Okay. But yeah, you were pretty much right, David. Okay. So quickly, a little Q&A. I hope that helps. And we'll see you in the next one. Bye.